am sitting here so excited. I'm sitting with three of the most talented women I have ever met, and I'm not kidding. So welcome, and thank you for being the ladies who lunched today, because we don't do it that often, do we?
You do not.
Lunch
No.
anymore?
For asking.
It's kind of an old world thing, right?
Love it.
So, first of all, thank you for being here. This is the first time that I've had to have notes because of just the powerhouses that the work you've done. It's just, I'm a little palpitating right now, but Mary-Mitchell Campbell, this is kind of a reunion of sorts for us.
Yes.
Because I haven't seen you in a while, but I certainly since 10 Cents a Dance with John Doyle.
Yes. Where you played saxophone.
Yeah.
Donna played the saxophone.
They sent me to Juilliard.
To learn how to play
I
the
saxophone.
I always respected horn players, but now I really do, to learn how to. And
He sent you to Juilliard. That's excellent.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to go to Juilliard and learn
That's
sax,
John,
right?
no, that's Mary and John Doyle, who, if you've ever worked with him, it's just an incredible thing.
It is.
And I have to tell you, I had to take notes the first time because of all the work, and I'm just going to catch up a little bit. Because you're working on For the Girls with Kristen Chen with
Kristen
right
and
now.
I are going to be.
And the Prom, which is a show I loved, where Beth, Mean Girls conducting, Tuck Everlasting, Fighting Neverland, Big Fish, Company. Now, when I first saw you, did you see Company, the John Doyle version? Well, and Raoul?
Was that the one with Raoul?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
I was very subjective, being in the original. I went, how are they going to do this? Because it's, it's not 25 musicians anymore most of the time, right?
No,
Sometimes.
yeah. Most
But
of the time,
it was
yeah.
8 musicians
In Company?
in Company when
No,
you
we
9?
had, we had like 12 cast members, and they all had to play different things.
Right.
They switched
Yes, I
instruments
do
all around.
remember. Yes,
Wow.
I do
It was
remember
very
that. But you had a group of musicians on the side, right?
No, just the actors.
What? Okay. then this, because
it was
the
very exciting.
arrangements, because I didn't know you then, and when I heard those arrangements, I went, this is fantastic. The feeling tone, what you brought to that score, and I know it so well, and it was
You
just.
do know it well, yeah.
And you got
Thank
an
you.
award for that,
Yeah,
of course.
thank you.
I'd like to see it again. Sometimes I saw it the first time and I went, you know what? Let's go see that again. But then you can't because it's
Yeah.
gone.
But it's coming back.
I know, but it'll be
right.
different.
Yes, that's right.
Exactly.
It looks very different. Okay, so I'm going to, Beth.
Yes.
One of the things I love about doing this is that I can say to you in person, congratulations, and what a year
you.
you've had.
Thank you so
from the
much.
Prom, and
It was really special.
and coming out, I mean, for all the things you've done. I mean, I was right there just cheering you on like everybody else, because your presence, this fantastic voice, and you seize the stage and the character, and
Thank you.
and it's
You're
just.
gonna make me cry.
Oh my God! It's
Nature.
just wonderful, and to
Thank
see
you.
that kind of, even though we kind of downplay, if you've been in show business more than 5 years, you try to downplay the awards so that you can be the worker bee that you called
Right.
yourself, which
Right.
I relate to. But sometimes it's really great to see, that. And was 42nd Street your first show?
The original company, and not the original cast, but the original company. And then I wonder how many other people have done this, have had the privilege to be old enough to do the revival. And to play the old roles, as I made my Broadway debut as Anytime Annie. And I wish they'd
Right.
sent me to Juilliard to learn to tap. Because I had to learn it kind of all by myself. And it's a skill that I'm really glad I did learn, because thankfully...
You'll never forget it,
I will
right?
never forget it. My mother sent me to Betty Kovac's School of Dance in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yes, North Carolina.
And I took 4 years of tap at a very young age, so I kind of knew the vocabulary.
Right.
But then I had to...
And work your ass off to
I
get
worked
that.
my ass off. And, now I'm really glad I can tap. I'd rather not do it right now. But if I had to, I could pull back across
Right.
the Sardis floor.
And then Mamma Mia. I'm
Mia,
just see. I have to
That's
refer
okay,
to this, and just what
Drowsy
else?
Chaperone.
Oh my God!
And that's
yes,
okay. That's
yeah,
one I'm really
yeah.
proud of. Yeah.
And when I saw you in the Prom, it's like, did you see the Prom, Theresa?
I did. I loved it.
Thank you.
I came backstage and you didn't know me, but I'm friends with Brooks. And so I was like telling everybody as an anonymous person how great it was. I just thought it was great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You're a friend with Brooks?
I am a friend. I'm friends with Brooks.
Kidding. I
You know,
adore him.
and watch, and everybody was great. And seeing it, I couldn't help but think, what was that room like in rehearsal?
Oh my gosh.
Did you laugh?
It was a lot.
Yeah, it was sometimes really hard, and that was part of the what was so great about the show and its passion and how close we were together, but how we all felt so safe in the room that we could literally come in with the creative team and the cast and throw everything we had up against the wall and see what stuck, and not be afraid of anything,
Yeah.
and trust each other. And it's really, really challenging to be in a room with Brooks and Chris and Angie and Josh Lehman and all our cast and not laugh most of the day, which I also think served the storytelling as well. It was probably the happiest year of my life.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That emanated from the stage.
Oh, good, because
the
it
love
was really
backstage.
truthful.
You can't. It comes through. Yeah.
Right, Mary-Mitchell?
I thought it was, we had a lot of fun.
Sometimes we just have to go, okay, people, stop
Yeah.
laughing. Everybody, let's just
Focus,
get on task
focus.
and see if we can figure out how to end this number.
It's great.
Cadillac of Prom.
Now, Theresa, so I'm just so honored that you're here.
Thank you.
The work that you have done. I mean, you are the major voice for our theater, and not just this country, but the world. I honestly believe that.
Awesome.
I honestly
Thank you.
believe that.
Thank
I
you.
do believe it. And then, you know, it's like I'm Googling very superficially, and then I had no idea because I've seen some of the plays and I've loved it. I mean, Alan Rickman is one of my favorite actors, and Janet McTeer, and then I read about all of the plays. I mean, now over what, 30?
This one, actually, every now and then I count them.
Yeah,
Just to
I
like
couldn't
go,
count.
how many are there? So I don't know actually how many in general there are, but this one that we're doing up at MCC Seared with
Right.
Raul Esparza and Krista Rodriguez is the 19th one I've had off Broadway or on Broadway.
Wow.
So I know it's a
Wow.
lot.
Wow, that's
It's a lot.
That's amazing.
I'm like, bring it on, man.
What else?
Yes.
Yeah, so
That's amazing.
So I do feel honored by that in a way, you know, like it's a body of work, and
Yes.
I'm
Now, let
you know,
me ask you a question, because I was reading some comments and everything. You are the most Broadway-produced female playwright. Now,
yeah, it's a weird.
Are you
It's very
like-
specific and weird.
What
It's
is
like
that?
straight plays. Everybody always goes because you guys are all musical
Right.
theater. People look at me and go, "Have you ever done a musical?" And I'm like, not really. I mean, I wrote one that we're still trying to figure out how to get it done. I think it's very beautiful with Kim Sherman. Do you guys know
Yeah,
Kim
I
Sherman?
love
The
Kim
great
Sherman.
Kim Sherman. But it's big, and so we haven't had any luck getting that done. But that's the only one I've ever. Other than that, I write straight plays. I mean,
Yeah.
that was my dream, was to write plays. I wanted to like be Chekhov or Arthur Miller. That's just what my
so
instrument
you
sort of
always had
stands
that
there.
affinity too.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
I just never. I don't know. I just never moved into. Every now and then, someone says you should write a musical, and I'm like, oh, really? It seems like a lot of work. And
Well, also the high part of the moments.
yeah,
that
I'm
are
always like,
taken.
when
Neil
I did
Simon
it-
didn't like that.
I know. I was like, wait a minute. So, like, my best stuff,
told
you're
me.
going to hand over to a composer,
someone's gonna
and someone's
musicalize
going to
it.
turn it
Yeah.
into a
Yeah.
song.
Wait a
I'm like,
minute.
wait, that doesn't. Yeah, right. So I've had 4 plays on Broadway, and I'm a woman, and they're plays. I think that's what the deal is,
Yeah.
and that nobody's done that since like Lillian Hellman.
Yeah,
So that's why it's such a weird.
So it's
like, yes, that's great. I'm really proud.
But is
it's
there
a
a part
pretty
of
weird.
you? Yeah, is there a part
right.
of you that goes, do we have to do the gender thing?
Right.
Can't we just, is
Well,
that, it's
so
important, I guess, right now. that
Listen,
you-
like you know how it is. You like live with it your whole life, and at a certain point, you just go,
okay.
whatever. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way, and I'm really grateful that Me Too happened. It did change the discussion because I got some really crazy reviews over the years where it was like, what did they think they saw? And meanwhile, everybody else saw the play that was, you know what I mean? So now I think that there is a more of a sense of like trying to understand. I've always tried to speak from like my point of view, sort of, which
Right.
is a different point of view than other points of views in the.
Now, is Spike
Right.
Heels your first play?
It was my first play in New York.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I had to stop writing the awards
let's
down
hear all
too,
those 19.
you know?
Let's
I know, it's like
really,
1990s.
and
Right?
what year was
I have 5 brothers and sisters, and my mom used to go, we're just about blah, blah, blah.
I do. I call
I
my
can't
children
do it.
my dogs' names. It's like, Louie, Terry, what the hell is your name? Sam, get in here.
what we're up against? When was that?
That was a couple years ago. I actually wrote that back when I wrote Spike Heels. It was, like 1992. And nobody ever did it. And then they just did it. And it did happen like during, it was one of those things where it was about women in the workplace and what happens. And nobody would touch it. And then all of a sudden they decided they wanted to do it up there at the Women's Project. Jenna Siegel, who's a wonderful advocate for female artists. She's a producer who really wants to stand, and get women's stories out there told by female creators, because a lot of times, like, they go, I'm always like, wait a minute, there are no women on the creative team of Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. Come on. And, and like Tootsie, I was like, wait a minute. I mean, that's not to say anything about these wonderful artists, but it does feel like that there's still plenty of room to grow
and there's
in terms
need,
of
the need to make an effort now to make sure that it's
there are
balanced.
more. Anyway, so that's so that actually happened with what we're up against. That they were all kind of like, I don't know. I couldn't figure out what the problem was. I think they thought I was making it up or something. And so then we were in the middle of producing it when Me Too hit, and everybody went, "Oh, you're not making it." I was like, "No, none of us are making this up. This is actually accurate. It's cinema verite."
Yes.
Yep.
When on one of the shows we were talking about being a girl growing up in the 50s, Midwestern, I came to New York with, observing and realizing that I had to survive by not being forthright, but my way was, because of the way I was raised, that I had to kind of negotiate things to protect myself. And I never liked it, but I just thought that's the way it is, and I don't like it, but I kept myself safe.
I admire you deeply. I'm direct to a fault. I'm like, when it's just my
great,
DNA.
but
I don't know.
That is.
Anyway, I do admire
And
you
also,
deeply.
speaking of that, you were like, another award that jumped out at me was, here we go.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Mr. Sana,
Thank you so much.
Newsweek.
take knife.
Look at that, isn't that nice?
Thank you.
Okay.
Wow.
I know, right?
I'm going to change my
look
order.
what you did.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Wow.
they look amazing.
I know. So bon
bon
appetit.
appetit. Thank you.
Newsweek.
What
Oh
were you-
yes, yes. Oh my
Newsweek.
God, yes. I hadn't heard of this before, but 150. You were one of the 150 most fearless women in the world.
Whoa.
Wow.
I know, it was
Wow.
like a
That's
while
amazing.
ago too, though. I'm like, I want it again. I'm the one who goes, I'm greedy. I want to see company again. I want to get that award again. Do you know what I mean? Because it was a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was sort of great when that happened.
Okay, I want to ask about. So I want to kind of throw something in the middle of the table, not the food, a kind of a question. But to do it, I want to illustrate it by this. I was thinking about when I was interviewing Jerry Mitchell once, who was a wonderful director, as you know, and he was generous to give me this interview. And I said, so. When did you really know that you wanted to do what you do? Because that's endlessly fascinating
really
to me.
is.
Why we do what we do,
Right.
and it doesn't always happen at the same time for people's journey. It goes all over the place, or it starts later, or whatever. The connection you make with yourself. And he said, I remember the day very well. I was sitting in Paw Paw, Michigan, on the kitchen table with my mother, and I said, I'm going to be on Broadway, and nobody's going to stop me.
Wow.
And he
How
said,
old was
just
he?
5.
5?
Wow.
And I love
That's
that. I mean, I couldn't
fabulous.
speak. I
That's pretty
thought that-
amazing.
Yeah. And
5.
I just thought, and when I thought about it, the fact that he was there making that pronouncement with his mother,
In Paw Paw.
and Pawpaw,
And Pawpaw.
that supportive, that home base, the support, he, was assertive that way as a kid. it makes sense to me. No, but that's
impressive.
Does anyone metaphorically have that a moment where you recognized?
Okay, well, I had a moment when I was 16 because I had always wanted to be a writer. I was the one who was like, I'm 6 years old, I'm going to be a writer.
Wait, can I ask where you were born?
Yeah,
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. Okay, sorry.
Ohio. And then
So you
I
were
got-
like 10, I read, that when you started writing them.
I was 6.
6.
I was
You were
really.
6?
I was
Wow.
like pre-conscious.
Get those facts
You know,
straight.
they actually.
6.
They
Wow.
my aunt had a story that I wrote when she saved it. When she
really?
died, we found it in her things. This little story I wrote when I was 6. She was my mother's twin sister, so she was like my second mother. And so I had this kind of precognitive like idea that I'm a writer, right? And then I was improbably good at chemistry. So everybody went, you should be a doctor or a chemist. And I was like, I think that I get it, because I really like it. Sometimes I just read books about the periodic table and stuff because I find it really interesting. Oh, yes. It's very relaxing.
Okay.
But, but I was still going,
Sure if that's
well, but you're a writer. And then I got involved in theater in high school. I started acting in plays. And so then I wanted to be an actor. And then I thought, no, I thought I was just deeply confused. And then there was this moment where I thought you could put acting and writing together and be a playwright. It seemed like ABC, A plus B equals C. So I said to my mother, I was 16, and I said to my mother, I think I'd like to be a playwright. And she like went pale. There was this kind of like, what? Anyway, so then the clarity all left again for years and years and years. But it would come back in moments like, well, if you're going to be a playwright, you better start writing some plays. It was sort of like sitting there.
What'd you study in school? Like
Undergraduate? English. I was an
makes
English
sense.
major.
Yeah.
I know everybody says don't let your kids major in the humanities, and I'm like, what do you mean? It's an education.
Yeah.
So, but you kept writing.
I did.
but
It
it
was always kind of just something I
Because
did.
it was
a lot of.
always there then.
Yeah.
And your mother was worried that
Well,
that
there was
might not be the right.
I know. There was no, it was Cincinnati, Ohio. And my parents are Catholic Republicans, or my mother's a Democrat now, but there was like no container for this idea. It was like, it was just madness. It was an insane thing to say. Like I was 16, so it wasn't as insane as Jerry Mitchell going, I'm going to go to Broadway at 5.
Nobody's
But it
gonna
was still,
stop me, yeah.
it was utterly peculiar.
I didn't know what Broadway was.
Yes, how did you discover it?
I have no idea.
You do now.
Movies?
I think so. I mean, we didn't ever go to theater. We didn't ever have theater to go to. That's changed now.
Wow.
Thank God.
You're both from the same state.
Where are you from?
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
So, and my parents weren't into the arts at all. My father worked at a Coca-Cola company and then the TV station. My mother was a florist and a stay-at-home mom. So I honestly have no idea
Television?
where the curiosity, not really, but I remember
city?
Raleigh.
My sister lives there.
Really?
She
Like,
in Raleigh?
like I said, now it's has so much. There's
Yeah,
a
there's
lot
a lot
of
going on
arts,
now.
a lot happening. Thank
Well,
goodness.
when did you go to dance school?
She made me go in elementary school,
Oh, okay.
and then I had to go to cotillion.
Oh, of course you did.
Oh, wow.
Because of the coming out party.
Because
Cotillion.
I didn't have a coming out party, but I did have to
Did you do
learn how
that?
to
No, but my
foxtrot.
friends did. It was a, it's
But
a big thing.
I remember sometime in middle school, we very rarely went to movies, but we went and saw Music Man with Robert Preston and Shirley Jones, and I remember disappearing into the film. Literally don't remember sitting anymore, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't know what to do with it until my senior year in high school, and my best friend asked me to audition for the senior spring musical.
Were you
What?
singing yet?
No.
What was it?
It was Brigadoon, and I got the third lead.
And what song did you sing?
I'm not sure I had a solo. Where'd you go, Bonnie? Da, 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 da. Something like that. But I
love
sang
it
it.
when musical people do this.
I know, just
something else.
sing.
Playwright singing it.
But again, my parents, I went, and they thought it was just kind of precious that I was doing a musical. But I was supposed to get married and have children and a real job. So I went to undergraduate school, and I have a degree in social work counseling, which has come in enormously
You went to Meredith.
handy.
My mom went to Meredith.
That's right.
So you went to Meredith, and that's what you majored in?
I majored in social work and
I don't think I've ever known
counseling.
this, as long as I've known you.
Why
And
were you being
because there was
ironic
no,
or
no, I really
truthful?
did. There
Yeah.
was
I mean, in
no-
terms of it being so useful.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
The counseling is about listening and responding,
Yeah.
listening, and so that's what acting is. And but I did I had a theater minor because there was no theater major, and I had a teacher, I had a mentor who pushed and suggested and made me uncomfortable and made me happy. And I did everything I could get my hands on until the very end when I graduated, and she said, you need to see what happens with this. And I said, I'm not moving to New York, I'm terrified. So I went and got an MFA from the University of North Carolina, and those 2 years changed my life. And then I knew what Broadway was.
Wow. So
And
you
then did you go?
Then I went. After I got my
After
equity
your
card,
MFA.
I did an internship at a theater in Pennsylvania for 8 months and answered the phone and made costumes and struck sets and was the third sword carrier from the left in Taming of the Shrew.
Wait, which theater?
It was, yes, Allentown, Pennsylvania
In
Stage
Allentown?
Company in Allentown. In Allentown.
I know Allentown. Yeah.
And my first musical I did in college was Applause. Remember that?
Yes, very well.
I choreographed it, which is so
Oh my
ridiculous.
God.
Is there
Who did you
video?
play?
I choreographed it and was in the ensemble. I tried out for Bonnie and didn't get it.
I would
trying
love
to
to
get
see
you
your
to sing
choreo.
again.
You just wait when I finish my salad.
But 9 months of doing all, just doing
it's
everything.
like, well, I
painting
feel
the
like I
sets.
paid my dues.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those moments. Like when I teach a master class, I go for musicals. I'm like, have you worked at a theme park? Have you done dinner theater? Have you done? There's
Right.
like a
Have
ship.
you done one of those cruise things?
Have you done a cruise things? I have not. See, now that wasn't really that trendy when I moved to New York.
You should do that.
I've sung on a cruise
Dinner
ship, which
theater
was
is probably
great.
a
That's
little
what I
less
mean.
common now.
Oh yeah, I
Like
have.
you've gone on the cruise
yeah,
and
you've
gone on a
sang.
cruise
You've sung on
sometime.
cruises.
It was really fun.
Was it fun? Did you go with other people? Like who
No,
were
just
like
me.
your friends? Just you?
me.
The Theater Guild
I
before
have
they,
a fantasy about this that you
Maybe
guys
you should.
all go on cruises together and sing beautiful. Like the best singers
have
we've
fun.
got. You and Brian Stokes Mitchell and everybody and Brooks and that you're out there on the high seas singing
Singing
together.
show tunes,
Yes.
changing
And
lives.
That's I've never. That's
This particular ship I was on, not very many people spoke English, so it was kind of like, oh, note to self.
Where did you go?
To Rome.
Oh, wow.
I mean, who cares? I mean, they could feel how much I
Playbill?
love.
Was this
No, it's called Crystal Cruises.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It was really, really, really spectacular.
Okay, so did you leave from New York and sail across the ocean?
Nope. I
you
flew to Rome, and then we sailed
then took a
out
cruise
of
from
Rome.
there.
Took the cruise from there. It was
Okay,
really
and then where did
amazing.
the cruise go?
All the way up. We went to Barcelona.
What I want to know.
Where's the place with the races? The famous.
Oh,
Yes, that
San
famous.
Sebastian. No,
more
not that.
famous.
Monte Carlo?
Monte Carlo.
Monte Carlo.
But that said, I knew I had 2 shows to do, so until I got through with those shows,
Sure, you were
it
pacing
wasn't
yourself,
really
yeah,
a vacation.
yeah.
When that was done, it was like, whoa!
Yes, right.
Then you were like,
Yeah. And then it
Teresa,
was
you could go on one of those.
I could not.
Come on, sure you can.
You're
What
too
am I going
busy,
to do?
but-
No, I mean, what am I going to do? Stand up there and answer
Storytelling.
questions?
No, because they have
Do
it's
master class
different
on
now.
writing.
But they still do them. You'd have one afternoon where you would sit and
Oh, yeah,
and
there
do
was-
a Q&A.
there were artists,
and your
the
whole trip would
playwrights
be paid
answering
for.
questions.
I think you're making this up.
No, I'm not.
We're going to find you a cruise.
No, I'm not.
That's the goal
Right?
of today's
Theresa
lunch.
Rebeck
Absolutely.
Goes on
gets a cruise.
I love that book.
So yeah, that's it. That's possible. That's a real. I used to tour with the Theater Guild, and it was the Langners before they no longer do it.
Right.
But we'd have Patricia Munzel, Pat Munzel. Brian Bedford would do his evening of Shakespeare.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
We would take one musical comedy singer dancer, and and Leroy Reams would do it, and we'd have our own audience, and there'd be like 7 of us, and we'd have dinner. Judy Kay did it one. We would sit around, have dinner, and watch someone else's show. We'd have a 2-week vacation. Everything was paid for. The only thing we didn't get a fee.
Right,
but
but
we
you had a
got
vacation.
Beautiful trip.
Right.
And watched everybody else's show, and then so
Well,
I know
that's
that
dreamy.
feeling of when you have a show, you can't drink the night
Right,
before.
you
You
just
know.
have to behave
But
and
after you do
not
your
talk.
show, then
Then it's,
yeah,
yeah.
Then we.
it's a great way to see the world.
It really is. I wish I'd done a national tour.
Oh.
When I was really young, to go see the world that way. I just hear of people's experiences, but I didn't.
But you might.
I might. Never say never.
Never say never.
Never say never.
Yeah, national tours do seem. We just were the Mean Girls national tour.
All right.
I just came back from Buffalo, and the whole time I was like, maybe I should do a national tour, just to see the country and just.
I know.
Have
You've
an
never done a
experience.
national tour either?
I did like a really short-lived non-equity tour of Greece when I was very young.
And so you like ran around and music
It was like
directed
it was like one-nighters across Canada.
Canada.
The middle
One-nighters?
part, the middle part of Canada.
One-nighters.
There's a middle part between, Toronto. You have Toronto and Montreal. You have Vancouver. The middle. That was our one-nighters. It was very interesting.
But
bet
you
it
have to be
was
young
it
when
pretty?
you do that.
It was really pretty, actually.
Yeah.
But
Isn't
the
that
one-nighter
where,
thing is really hard.
Louise is? Or-
Yes, Banff.
Yeah.
Banff.
I'm desperate
Everyone
to
should
go
go to Banff. Oh,
Yeah.
highly recommend.
Well,
I
I
have to figure
when I
that
get my
one out.
tour. I'll tell them that we
Make
need
sure
to go
your
to
tour
Banff.
has to go to Banff.
Or you could go on your own.
God forbid.
But a national tour is like, I'm glad I did it in my 20s because I never have to do it again.
Did you do it for how long?
A year. Yeah.
full year?
Yeah. What a funny thing. Yeah.
Oh.
That's
Where did you go?
Oh, all over. I mean,
Did you
all
stay
the
like
big cities.
for like
Chicago,
You went to,
Denver.
how long were you in Chicago?
Those are the days when they used to like maybe 6 weeks.
So you had
Wow.
like 6-week sit-downs in different
Yeah,
big
in
cities.
different big cities. Yeah.
That
It was a
sounds
great
really ideal.
education. It was
Did
great.
you go to Marshall Fields and get the chocolate? Oh, that's what you do in
And
Chicago.
then State Fair. Yeah, it was great. I saw a lot, and I and I love New York. I love just the more I can stay here, but I still travel a lot doing.
And you were
things.
young when you came to New York, right?
Yeah. And so were you.
Yeah, I was. But you were. I feel like you were.
Well, mine
young.
is a cautionary tale. I ran away. I mean,
You did?
You were like
yeah,
16?
Yeah.
Mine is
yeah.
I'm
Do
like,
you know what
I
I
want to
remember?
hear
I
a
was-
cautionary tale.
I was-
that
and
sounds
then
good.
what happened?
She was 15.
You were
Oh my
15.
gosh.
Yeah, but then I wrote it about it. But then my father came and took me home, and then they let me go
Oh,
again,
wow.
and I never knew why. I had a job, but I think my dance teacher said, "Let her go, and then don't send her any money, and she'll come back soon. She has a job, And that fueled my desire to not go back and to keep working to
prove
show
them.
that.
Yeah, to prove them wrong. Yeah.
I'll bet.
So, but that's a strong thing to do, and the guilt. You sent me to therapy for
So
many
wait,
years.
so you never went back?
No, I never did because I had good ballet training, so I was able to keep working. But when I teach now, if I do master classes, I don't encourage that.
Right.
Because it was hard.
It is
Sure.
like
But I
15.
loved it. I mean, I was like, when you're that young, you're so omnipotent. You think, I thought I was almost too innocent,
Yeah.
so that I scared people that they stayed away from me. But I love New York, the New York experience. Now are you
I'm from Ohio.
okay? Midwestern.
Yes.
So
I'm
what was
an
it like, the
escapee.
New York experience when and you're from?
I'm North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Beth and I are from close to the
Right.
same place.
But I came from a big city compared to what.
Yeah, I came from the farm. Like literally a
And
farm.
you and
Really?
Yeah, I grew
and
up
you
with
were young, Mary.
Pigs and tobacco and
But when you
peaches.
but
Yeah.
so what
Well, I moved
moved you?
I moved right after college, but my story was like I was always interested in piano, and I asked for piano for Christmas when I was 3.
Now, how did you know that's what you wanted?
I don't know. I
Did
just
you
was
see?
always.
Did you hear music?
I get. I mean, I could always. It was weird. I could always play the piano. Like I played in church mostly, but I could walk up to a piano and play it. It was like a language I understood, and because I played by ear,
That's
and it just sort of
amazing.
made sense to me. And then I started formal lessons when I was 8, and I started playing in restaurants when I was 10. So I
10?
yeah.
The little glass here
I
for
was like
dollar bills.
It was called Abrams.
April.
And then it was in downtown Wilson, so it was
go.
like further away. But they had a seafood buffet on Friday and Saturday nights, so I was the pianist for that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great though. It made me really think about repertoire. I had to like listen to the radio more, and I I got really
baby.
good. I got really good at getting tips, and so
Yeah, I bet.
yeah. So it was.
I would, boy.
Right, I know. If I
10-year-old
saw a
playing,
10-year-old kid, I'd give him.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
singing well.
absolutely.
Did you sing along? When,
I didn't, no, but I would it was small town, so it was regular, so I just remember everybody's favorite songs. And I would just do a medley of their favorite songs when they walked in.
oh my
So
God.
they would feel obligated.
So smart.
yeah.
Obligated to give me a tip. So yeah, that was
So
my story.
what prompted New York?
When I
did you
well,
start
I went
working?
away to I sort of ran away at 16 to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, to the governor's school. I did governor's school in the summer, and then I decided to go to North Carolina School of the Arts for high school, which is like a high school and a college. And I went there for high school, but because it's a high school and a college, you're basically living as a college student, really, because you're in classes with college students, and all my music classes were with college students. Some of them are who I work with now on Broadway, which I find very funny. We have a lot of, they remember me at 16. It's highly amusing. T. Oliver Reed.
Oh, yeah.
He was in my German class.
I just did a reading with him last week.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so we laugh about that. But yeah, so I saw a production of Baby. That Lauren Ward starred in, actually, if you know Lauren. And I was 16, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to tell sort of what your epiphany of like
This
putting it
plus
to
this,
for
and
me it
then
was
you
like
get to do
music
that.
and storytelling.
Yeah.
This makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And then your first year in New York.
I worked with you in my first year in New York.
with the Sweet Charity.
With Sweet Charity.
Wow.
There was a Cy Coleman was I think
My
your
big
first
mentor,
mentor
yeah.
here,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
And I love Cy so much. Did you know?
I didn't.
Did
I mean,
Cy?
we had met, but we never had the opportunity to work together.
He
was amazing.
What was that? It was at Lincoln Center.
It was at Lincoln Center. It was Avery Fisher. It was a big Broadway Cares benefit.
Yes, right.
And we had 5 charities, and Donna was one of them. Gwen.
Yes.
It was you, Gwen,
Cheetah, Debbie.
Allen, and BB.
Oh my
BB,
gosh.
Yes. And I was
Like royalty.
I had just moved to New York, and my goals. I was not Jerry Mitchell. I was not like, I'm going to take over Broadway and nothing's going to stop me. I was like, I'm going to move from my farmland to New York and try and get one good credit and move back down to North Carolina.
Really?
Yes, that was my big goal, was to get a credit
And
so
then
that I
leave.
could I could like have a career in North Carolina because I had done something in New York.
Wow.
That was my big goal.
But
You succeeded. But you have achieved your goal.
the thing that, do you know this about her, that she met Paul Newman right through Cy?
Yeah, your side.
And I didn't know this. You worked administratively with Newman's Own.
Yeah, with Newman's Own.
Did
Oh,
that
wow.
prep
Yeah.
you for your wonderful nonprofit
And then I started a nonprofit.
organization?
Yes, it was largely because of Paul Newman.
Because
largely.
I didn't know that you had that,
Yeah,
kind of training.
I got to spend a lot of time with him.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
he,
Isn't that
didn't I know this?
fantastic? Yeah.
I don't think it's ever come up.
Okay, well, thank you, Donna,
Wow.
for things we learn at the Ladies Who Lunch.
He was just like, my favorite thing about him is that he had this really quirky, odd sense of humor. He was very off. Like he was his favorite thing to take his name tag and scratch out his name and write Robert Redford over it, which I just thought was hilarious. And he would tell really funny, like sort of witty jokes. But he was so passionate about leveraging his success for. He basically just said, "I feel like I've had so much luck, and it is my job to share that luck with people who did not get that luck."
Fantastic.
And so he really focused on children who had been given like a life-threatening illness. And so that was his big mission. And I got really passionate about kids, and I loved how he leveraged everything he was doing for the greater good.
Is that kind of a stepping stone for you to go to India?
It was. I went to India I started a nonprofit and went to India
Yeah,
for.
tell us about it.
Yeah,
because
it's called ASTEP. It's
I know a
been
little
around
bit, but not-
almost 15 years now.
You have two careers.
Crazy. I sort of have 2 careers, yeah.
Okay, this is so fascinating. So what is is it in India, the nonprofit?
We work in India. We work in India, Africa, and the U.S. And it's like creating individualized arts programming for specific groups of children that are in really dire situations. So like in India, we have 2 major programs. One is in a orphanage / boarding school for children who are lowest caste.
Wow.
And it's a pretty high-level English medium education that they're getting. And then we work with Teach for India. We wrote a musical that, called Maya, which is about a girl saving the world and teaching courage, compassion, and wisdom that's toured around the country. But we took 35 kids from slum areas outside of Pune and basically gave them a 2.5-year musical theater school, which was really quite amusing.
And you bring people over?
We bring New York artists over, and we work in Africa with Dick Scanlon, who runs our program there. You know Dick
I
Scanlon.
do. I love him.
And then we have a ton of programming here in the city with refugee children, with kids in homeless shelters, with kids with incarcerated parents, with,
It's
and everything's
major.
sort of built around what
Yeah.
they're up against.
But it's a major organization now that you cover all
We're getting there, yeah.
that ground. Wow, fantastic.
It's been around a while. Yeah, it's it's like having a lot of children. That's how I view it.
Because I admire the fact that I have no children. I don't even have 2 cats. I said, kind of. But to negotiate a life, to have a life, to have a family life, it's something that's eluded me. But I admire it so much, especially in my women friends who are able to raise. And when Angie Schwar was on once, your friend, your dear
My
friend,
girl.
she said it was kind of, she married into
A family.
A family,
a built
yeah.
family. I mean, they were like 10 and almost teenagers, right?
Right.
That was kind of shocking.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
She's amazing.
And
She is
It's an
amazing.
amazing family.
So how was that? Was that ever? That was just a given that you went. Well, the work will take care of the family's life. The family life is here, and the work. And
Oh, you mean that balance?
Yeah, that-
I have to say, I don't come from money, and my husband doesn't either, and we were pretty broke. And I started getting some work in television, like in the early '90s, and I got offered NYPD Blue in the second
Oh,
season,
yeah.
and I had just had a kid. I had my son, and I was like, I'm not doing another, because I had done a very little bit of television show and my television work. My husband, who's a stage manager, he was like, you need to think about this. I mean, it was a great offer, and I learned a lot, and I'm really glad I did it. But I was confused because I had just had this baby. And he said, I'll stay home with the kid. You should go. And actually, it wasn't. And then he never went back to work. So I really have always had a
so you both worked it out where you could do your work.
He
and-
just turned into a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
And so, every now and then someone says to me, how do you get so much work done? I'm like, I got the deal.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, I got the deal.
Yeah.
Because my husband is really, stayed at home, raised the kids. I did too, but it's like, I think that do you have kids?
I have 2 kids.
And does your husband have
My ex-husband.
you're right?
Yeah. I became the breadwinner. We could
Right,
see
that's what I did.
whose path was going to support, and I was getting work. And so John decided that he would stay home, and we
Yeah.
moved and got a house in Jersey, and I was doing Crazy for You and Showboat and breastfeeding at the same time. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
You just make it work.
Yeah.
You just make it work. There's times when I can't be at the soccer game, but there's times when I can, and there was always a parent. There was always someone representing and loving our kids at all times.
Right.
And that's how
Yeah.
our family works.
Yeah, and there were a lot of things I didn't miss because when you're a writer, you're
Yeah, you
home
can-
writing, and you're like, oh, it's Halloween day at the school, and you get to run down to the street and
That's the other
see
thing
them
I
all.
wanted to ask you about. What interests me about, I'm kind of in awe of people who do that for a living, that write, that artistry, that talent, because you are with yourself alone, and you can do. Now, when you did television, see the facility to be able to go from theater to television, and then film, which is a whole other animal,
And then
right?
back.
And directing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, did you always have that ability just to write when you needed to, or because isn't that really fast? I mean, Neil Simon, I had a great conversation with him. I loved him, where I learned something. He said for him, he could make changes, whole scenes, as I read a director said that about you, because of his TV writing. He said, I had the same ritual every morning. I would get up from 9 to 12. I would sit in front of the typewriter, no computers.
Sure.
And whether I wrote one word or, 170 words, I would just 9 to 12 every day. And he said, and I was able to develop that, and then when I did plays, I could just, nothing was precious to
Yeah,
Neil.
that's true.
If we were out of town and he needed a whole scene, he would just go back to the hotel, write it, and come back. Did you always have that ability to change style, or what?
I actually I like that idea of not being. I'm always like, hey, you can lose that when you reach a point where you go, oh, if there's enough good stuff, then you can kind of cut anything because there'll be plenty of good stuff left, and so you don't have to get like
And there's more where that
greedy about
comes
this
from,
is my
right.
best line I've ever written. I can't cut it. You like go. Yeah, maybe it's not the best line, and maybe it doesn't belong, and and a lot of times I'm like, I love cutting because it sort of energizes everything really quickly, and so I'm always like, maybe we should cut act 2, and people go, okay, Theresa. I mean, because and I'm actually that's the big warning on me when I'm in rehearsal. I'm like, you guys don't stop me if I cut too deeply because I tend to go, hey, look, they're going, maybe we cut these 2 lines, and I'm like. Cut the whole page, and they go no. So I'm interested. I've always been interested in writing. I like every bit of it. Somebody asked me about it one time. They were like, I don't want to do the mingy stuff. I was like, there is no mingy stuff. I like every comma. I like when I finish. I like everything. I like punctuation. I like semicolons. I like.
Please bring it back.
Right.
Punctuation.
I'm not as good on internet stuff, but I do this thing like when I finish a play, I'm not allowed to make a title page until I get to the end, and then I go and I find a font. I get to like pick fonts and how big do you want it. It's I like all of it.
You make it fun.
Oh, it's really I love it. But which most people they're like, you like writing, but most people or a lot of people feel more like Dorothy Parker, who's famously said, I hate writing, but I love having written. And I'm like, I don't know, I think it's kind of fun. I will say, however, I've gotten to a point in my career because I started directing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really don't want to go back to like just being at home writing and then handing off the thing and just showing up while everybody else is having all the fun.
I wanted to know about the film,
Interesting.
the Trouble. I saw
Yeah.
bits of it. And was that your first direction? I
made a short movie, and then I also made a movie. Like we shot it in 8 days. That was fun. Based on one of my plays, and it's Poor Behavior, and I like that a lot.
Right.
I think that one came out really well. I'm interested in filmmaking, sure.
But if you're writing, it's wonderful to be able to. But not so much with plays.
I've
I've
been directing a lot for the theater, and
Yeah?
I direct my own plays, and people, and it always comes out great. I get great reviews. I mean, you should get reviews this good for it, and people are still flipped out by it. I'm like,
That's unusual.
a lot of people are stepping out of their lanes right now, as we should. It's like, and I think that partially because I wrote this play about Sarah Bernhardt, who did everything. She starred, she owned the theater, she directed it. I mean, she was one of those people like Henry Irving, they were like actor
boundaries,
managers,
right.
and they did everything. And this idea that playwrights cannot also direct, I think was invented at some point. I don't know who invented it, but there's a lot of really interesting work coming along now from many different ways of creating work, and I think that we should all relax and let me direct.
Yes.
That's what I think.
Totally.
Because I don't want to
Well, it
direct
makes sense.
everything.
I mean, it makes sense.
I'm just like, sometimes.
But that was historically, I always heard that. I always heard that.
Shakespeare directed his own stuff. Shakespeare would star it, and Moliere too. They wrote it, they starred in
Right.
it. There's some great stuff. Great historic stuff that was written by playwrights who were acting and directing at the same time.
Yeah.
So I just don't, it's been, look, we're women in the theater. It's a complicated road, and like, there was always like moments when I would find like, well, what are you going to do now? And and honestly, part of the reason I started directing is because there's such a limited pool of directors, and it became I feel like it was a way of disempowering playwrights where you got to wait for what and you have to
somebody
like
to be
for
free,
somebody
and
free or they how do they? I mean, I just thought I'm not interested in
Right.
waiting.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Right? It was a little
I
like,
have the perfect director.
right. Right.
No, it's great, and you love it. You love
I
it
do.
because it's your
I
point
mean,
of view, and you can.
Yeah, it cuts through a lot of, there's a lot of politics that you like sort of just shove aside.
But also, you seem like, as an artist, you have objectivity about your work, so you're not going to shoot yourself in the foot because of
I
an
wouldn't.
ego.
I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. I mean, I
No.
know some writers who the idea of talking to an actor like makes them go because you really do. I would say, for me, it's very careful. You have to be very specific and clear and respectful when you talk to your actors.
Thank
and you need to
you.
listen to them, and and be in collaboration with them. You know what I mean? And not everybody's. I've had a lot. I really did get a lot of training. I went to Brandeis where they had you do everything. We were
great.
doing all these. It was like what you said about that 9 months.
I'm so glad I learned all that
It
stuff.
was so fun, but I do feel like a lot of writers don't have that training where it's like, no, you can't say that to that actor right now. You have to let them, and every now and then there's a bump, and but mostly there are always bumps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Congratulations. That's great.
Thanks.
I learned something.
Absolutely.
What, that we should all be doing whatever?
Don't
all be
about
sharing these jokes.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to be. Are we good? I'm having so much fun. I have to continue because there's something I wanted to. Because I want to ask about. I just saw an interview, and I don't want to bring up any negativity, but I got a review in the Times once that devastated me so much. That I was in a depression for a whole year, and I just watched one interview that you did. You mentioned something like that, and I thought, this was a while ago. But
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
we're living in a different communication age now, and things are changing, and a play could close on just one person's subjective feeling, or a person's performance could be, a person's psyche could be damaged. But it's changing, though. I mean, it's not the same as it was, right? I mean, we're being reviewed, but we're being.
I don't read them.
It's more word of mouth.
I don't read them either.
Just don't.
Yeah.
But the word of mouth spreads more on the internet.
It's everywhere.
And so it is finally, the thing that we've all been yearning for is that it's more of a discussion, like as goes on in London, where there are like 10 critics, and it's like things are in discussion. Right. I feel like that's really starting to take hold. And I do feel like people still clutch around that Times review, and I'm glad when people get less clutchy around it, because it really is still, they're doing their job, we're doing our job. It shouldn't be so like Nero, that's just never, that's an unhealthy business model. So my friend John Walker, he's a producer, he produced the Incredibles movie. I was like, my friend produced the Incredibles. But before that, he was the managing director of Victory Gardens in Chicago. And he told me one time, he was like, you can sit anytime, because he saw so much theater. He did it for 17 years. And he said, the lights come up every single show. Like one person over here thinks this thing, one thing over here thinks something else. That there is never a uniform response, ever. In 17 years, he never saw a uniform response. And so he said, the idea that one voice has that much power is like just inaccurate. And that, and I'm like, I know, man, we've all sat around and tried to figure out how to come up with a better business model or something that more accurately supports and celebrates what we do.
A story sometimes that I when I tell my students when I was teaching, I use it as a kind of a tool for exactly this subject. When I was doing the workshop of Chorus Line, I loved it because it was protected, it was safe, it was insular. We were just putting on this show, and it was nobody knew that it would be commercial at all. But when it started growing and there was interest, I had a panic attack because the year before, that's when I got the bad review. And I remember going to Michael Bennett and saying, and I was trembling and on the verge of tears, and I said, I can't do this. I can't do this because I'm going to ruin the show for you. Because Clive Barnes at the New York Times hates me, and it's just, I just can't do it. He said, what? What are you talking about? He said, hold on, get in the other room, get on this phone. He got on the phone and he called Clive Barnes.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm listening.
Oh my
gosh. And he said, I have a girl here, a dancer in my show, who says that she wants to pull out because you hate her and she's afraid that she's going to ruin the show. Is that true? And I'm going, yes, and the answer is. And he said, well, who are you talking about? He mentioned my name, and he said, Oh no, I love her. I love her. I just thought that she wasn't up to par in that show. That's all. Oh, it's fine.
Wow.
And I'm listening to this, and I had been torturing myself for a year, and it meant nothing.
I love Michael Bennett, and I love that story.
Isn't that
I
great?
love
never heard that
story.
story.
Yeah, no,
Oh, it's amazing.
But it was, and then it was fine. It was all fine. But he,
Yeah, you need it kind of diffused for your imagination or something. I like because I can't read them. But there was one critic who's like been rough on me, and who I finally had a friend of mine go and I was like, okay, can you read this thing because I can't. And she was like, no, it's kind of good. It's good. It's so good. He's saying like good things. And then he went, okay, it's a little snarky. I was like, snarky, what's snarky? And I went, don't tell me what it's, I mean, it was totally neurotic. And then she went, okay, he's a little snarky about the second act. And I said, okay, what does he say? Because I just thought, just get it over with. Stop acting like this. And she said, overly ambitious. And I was like, oh, I'll take overly ambitious. But, you know, and that's really also, though, where you go, and that's something you throw at a woman. I mean, I'm like, nobody ever said that Angels in America was overly ambitious, which it is, because as magnificent as it is, there's big chunks of it that actually don't work. And nobody talks about that because they just acknowledge that it's a master. But they do. They kind of like, when a woman's overly ambitious, you hear, you're a little overly ambitious, makes it into print.
so then you have to translate all those.
But I
reviews.
liked it. I was sort of like overly ambitious. I am overly ambitious. I like that.
It's good. I'm ambitious now.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm inspired.
Are you overly ambitious? I would hope so.
These
You're
days I am.
changing the world.
Yeah, these days I
Right.
am.
I think you're the most ambitious.
So you haven't eaten a thing, but you're going to get that to go.
I am so getting this to go. Thank you, Sardis and ladies and
But what's around the
And
corner?
crab
I
cakes
know.
to
I
go.
just want to, before we leave each other, I just want to, talk about your Seared.
I have
is
a play
opening.
that's going to start previews in 2 days up at
wow.
Manhattan Class Company. That's called Seared, and it's starring Raul Esparza and Krista Rodriguez, and then 2 lesser known but equally like wonderful actors, Dave Mason and Trey Davis.
Great. Oh,
So,
great.
And
Can't
it's
wait to
directed
see
by Moritz von Stoltnagel, who I also did Bernhardt Hamlet
Right.
with. We work well together. I actually, if I'm going to have somebody else direct my plays, I prefer it to be him.
That's great.
Yeah.
Those relationships are
Yeah,
so
those
important.
relationships are great.
You build them over time.
Yeah.
And for you, Mary-Mitchell, you're
Well, Kristen
opening with
Chenoweth
Kristen,
and I are
right?
about to do a Broadway run at the Nederlander in November for her new album, which we've been doing press for the last couple of days. So
Yeah.
we've had the early morning TV shows like yesterday and today, which is
That's exciting.
it's fun. Yeah, it's fun.
Can I come?
Sure.
How do you get in? Do you just buy a ticket? Or is
To
this
the
like
to the Nederlander thing?
yeah,
Oh yeah, you just buy a ticket.
just buy a ticket. Well, I
Well,
didn't know
we know
if
each
it
other,
was.
so we have,
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was like, it sounded like maybe it's.
No, it's not a private thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a limited engagement.
It's a limited
but-
engagement though. It's
How
only 2
long
weeks.
is it? 2 weeks?
Over 2 weeks, yeah. And then what else am I doing? I'm doing Cyrano down at
Right.
Oh,
Off-Broadway at the Daryl Roth with Peter Dinklage
so
and
Great.
the band The National. wrote the music.
Wow,
Yeah, do you know them?
fabulous.
Yeah. So that's
know
been
them.
Yeah.
Okay,
they're-
cool. Now I will.
But now you will.
Thank
They're from
you.
Ohio.
And
Originally.
now you're singing and dancing every day again to get ready for.
What?
You have a show coming up at 54 Below?
I do. I have a
13,
new
is it?
show.
13.
13 and counting. I don't know. I haven't decided on the title yet because it's in January. So until then, I'm going to New Orleans next week to do a
Right.
concert. Then I'm going to San Francisco, and then I'm doing a master class, and then I'm going to Virginia to do
Now
a.
you're traveling,
I'm just
right.
traveling,
So
and
you're
then
traveling.
we'll see what happens next.
Good.
that sounds great.
It is.
That
But
sounds
I
like
love.
fun.
I love. I don't know about you, but when I teach or do master classes,
Yeah.
it just fills my soul. It's like just
Yes,
to be in that
yeah.
oxygen.
I love it.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
I
lifts
call it
me,
the
and I can
children I
come
never
back.
had. All the mothering, the nurturing goes into an important
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
And you too, right?
Yeah,
All your
similarly, yeah.
children?
Yeah, exactly. The children I did not have.
Well, thank you again
Oh my
for
gosh,
being
thank you.
here.
Thank
wow,
you,
this
Donna.
was just a great.
It's so
tour
great
of
to
life.
see you
love
all.
sitting
Yeah.
and meeting you.
I know.
I know, it's
Very
really
exciting,
fun
yeah.
to meet you
Yeah,
guys.
so we're
Yeah.
so
wait to
stuck
see
with
you.
each other now.
I know, I definitely are. But I also, I think, I never get to meet the musical people because.
And I hardly
yeah.
ever get to meet the play people.
Yeah. So it's great. Thank you,
Yeah.
Donna, for bringing
Oh, my
us.
know.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you've got two
And
music people.
Dory
in your set.
Berenstein,
I
our
do.
wonderful
Yes.
producer.
Yay, Dory.
I'm talking about you.
And a great crew. I just want to thank them. So I like to pretend this is champagne.
Yes, please.
Great.
And cheers to you. Good
Cheers.
luck and best to everybody.
Thank
Lots
you.
of love.
Cheers.
Good luck.
Thanks for bringing us together.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ladies who lunch.
Cheers.
And whose story tell?